Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Best Day Ever podcast. I'm your host, Jade Leah Burns, and to bring us the best story ever this week is Zach Flock, who is the executive director of the Erie Playhouse. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm having my best day ever, Jade.
There you go. You're already in the podcast.
Absolutely.
You are one.
Absolutely.
All right. So we have a long list of things to talk about, obviously, because the Playhouse is, I like to say, a hidden gem in Erie. But for those who don't know what the Playhouse is, tell me a little bit about it.
Sure. So the Erie Playhouse is a community theater that is entering its 110th season. So we've been around for quite a while. I've not been there as long. I'm about 2.5 years into the job as executive director, but have been a part of the Playhouse community for a long time. I did my first show there when I was in college, so believe it or not, about 20 years ago at this point. But it is a really, as you said, it's a gem. It is a community theater that enables folks who have a passion for live theater, whether that's on stage, behind the scenes, in the orchestra pit, in whatever capacity, to get involved and to do something they love. And then, of course, to share that with audiences. And, we've been really lucky over these last 110 plus years to keep building and developing new audiences in this region.
And it's one of the oldest community theaters in the nation,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So.
One of the oldest and longest running community theaters in the country.
That's so crazy,
Yeah.
right here in Erie.
Yeah,
Wow.
right. And it's such an awesome legacy to be a part of too.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll talk about you grew up doing youth theater at the Playhouse.
Oh,
and so
yes.
You're a part of that legacy too.
Yeah, and I mean, I was about to say, talk about all the different programs that you have going
Sure.
on. So youth theater is one of them.
Yes, youth theater is a program obviously for children, for students. We have both classes that students can participate in, some free, some with a cost to them. We try to keep costs as low as possible to make classes as accessible as we can. And then summer camps as well have been a huge popular thing for a number of years. I'm sure you went to them.
Oh, yes.
I worked at them when I was in college as a theater major. And then our youth theater productions. We do 3 productions a year right now that are all student focused. And actually, in addition to student performers, we have field trip performances as well. So we have local students who come to the theater, and for a lot of them, it's their first time seeing a live show. They come in expecting a movie, and then they realize that not only are they seeing live performers on stage, but they're their same age, right? And so they see it as, this is something I could do as well. So youth theater is definitely a really important program for the Playhouse because it plays such an important role in bringing new people in, at a young age, and then hopefully they develop that lifelong love of theater and they stick around, whether it's as participants or as audience members or, in whatever capacity is right for them as they move into their adult lives as well.
It definitely opens so many doors.
Yeah.
I mean, again, me being one of them.
Yeah, absolutely, right.
In 2008 was my first youth theater show. It was Geppetto and Son.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, wait, I have to tell you this story because
Yeah,
it's
please.
actually so funny. So the youth theater director at the time was Emily Casano.
Uh-huh.
I went into my first audition. I sang "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" from Lion King.
Nice.
But I was so terrified that I did so bad. I left, and I was like crying in the car, and I was like, "Mom, please take me back so I can re-audition." She takes me back, and then at least what was like, "We don't need you to do it again."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "I'm not getting into the show."
Oh, no.
Then I do you guys still post
on the door? Sometimes, but most we post online and most people check
yeah.
it that way now. Yeah.
So,
but I remember those days.
Yeah, it was after my mom got off of work and we drove to the Playhouse and I was like, please, please, please let me be on this list. And there I was in
Nice.
the ensemble. And
Yeah.
that's a core memory of going to the Playhouse and looking on the front doors
Yeah.
and seeing my name there.
The first time I auditioned, and again, this shows our age difference here, was when I was going into my senior year of college, which would have been 2004. So 4 years before young Jade even auditioned for youth theater. I auditioned it was back when we did cattle calls for the whole season all at once. And so I auditioned for a bunch of shows all at once. And same deal, the list was posted on the door. And I wasn't expecting to see my name at all, or if it was there, it would be probably at the bottom in an ensemble or something. And so I'm scanning the list for Sweeney Todd in concert. And I see Sean Clerkin as Sweeney Todd, Trish Yates as Mrs. Lovitz, John Burton, all these big names that I knew, not necessarily personally, but I knew the names as these kind of Erie celebrities. And I'm scrolling further down the list, and I see my name on that list. And honestly, I reached out. I was doing an internship at the Playhouse at the time with Sue Lechner, and I reached out to Sue and I said, was this a typo? Did they mean some other Zach? Is this a mistake? But I got the part, and that was my first role at the Playhouse. And I've been a part of the Playhouse community ever since. But I agree with you. Auditions, it's no matter how experienced you are, they are stressful, and that kind of never goes away. But that's also kind of the fun of it too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even today, if I'm auditioning,
oh, it's stressful.
I'm like
Totally. I'm the executive director, and I'm just as stressed when I go into that audition room too.
Yeah,
So absolutely.
Well, do you guys have any auditions coming up, or?
So we just announced our 2026 season in August. Everything for the rest of 2025 has already been cast, but we'll be announcing. We're starting off 2026 with Mean Girls,
Woo!
And so we'll announce info on those auditions coming up here pretty soon. Yeah.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yay! Okay, so the current show right now is
Elephant Man.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so Elephant Man is based on the true story, the life of John Merrick, who was born in the late 1800s in England, was born with kind of severe deformities, and had a very rough life. Was abandoned by his mother to go to work in a workhouse at a very young age, and then eventually, because of his appearance, actually found that he could have a better life by being a sideshow performer. Which better, being relative, it wasn't that much better, but he was actually able to kind of make enough money to survive, and eventually this is where the show picks up, is he gets abandoned by the leader of that kind of sideshow and gets taken in by a doctor who wants to study him, but also help to kind of acclimate him to being a normal member of society. So the play is really about him trying to fit into, quote unquote, the real world, and what it means to be normal, what it means to be accepted. And ultimately, I think, not to give too much away, but I think part of what's intriguing about the story is you sort of realize, even though he's the one who has physical differences, that maybe he's not the one who's really all that different. Yeah. So that's the show, and I'm actually playing the role of John Merrick. Yeah, I'm playing John Merrick, the Elephant Man. And it's a wild ride. We're in Tech Week right now, so I might be kind of running on fumes a little bit today, but it's a fun week, and it's really coming together. So yeah.
Great. So Tech Week, but there's a whole lot of things that you have to do before this.
Yes.
Let's take it from the character aspect. Tell me how you went through this process of trying to bring that to life.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the interesting things that I knew, let me step way back, and before I was even cast or auditioned or anything like that, Richard Davis, our artistic director, drives the season selection process, and the rest of us weigh in. And as executive director, I kind of have, I don't want to say final say, it's very collaborative, but Richard kind of puts the slate together and says, here's what I'm thinking, what does everyone else think? And I honestly was not that familiar with Elephant Man at that point. I had heard about it. There was a movie in the 80s that I'd never seen, but is kind of well known. And so I was intrigued by it as a show that I thought, oh, that's a good show for the Playhouse to do. And then once I read it, again, I'm thinking as executive director, not as an actor. Sure. And I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, this is definitely a good show for the Playhouse. So we announced the season, and time's going by, and I'm starting to think, as a performer myself, are there any roles that I might want to audition for this season? And the Elephant Man is such an intriguing and challenging role for an actor that the more I thought about it and the closer that audition date got, I just thought, you know what? I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. I'm going to audition. We'll see what happens. As executive director, I have no, special privileges or anything like that. I go through the process, and Caroline Lynn, who's directing, could have just as easily said thanks but no thanks. Yeah. But I got cast, and so immediately then I go into, all right, what are the things I need to do to prep? It's a very physically challenging role. The script specifically says, don't use makeup, don't use prosthetics, whereas in a movie, you would do all the kind of, to kind of transform. In the stage play, the author intends for it to be the actor using his body, contorting his body in a way to convey that for the audience, to kind of represent without literally portraying what those abnormalities or deformities might have looked like. So I've been taking yoga. I've been going to yoga a couple times a week. I stepped up my running even more. Part of that is my own vanity. I do have to be shirtless on stage for a few scenes, so I'm like, I want to, be in as good a shape as I could. Plus, I'm 42. It's not like doing this show if I was in college, so it's definitely taken a little more, required a little more physical work than, a lot of other roles might. So I've had to step up my game a little bit. And then, of course, all the line memorization and all the other kind of stuff that comes along with it as well.
And the rehearsal process, how did that go?
It's been really fun. We started in...
How many people are in the cast?
There's a... I don't have, this is, that's like, that should be an easy question to answer, right? But the reason it's not is I would say there are 10 people in the show, but then there are a couple of folks who function as stage crew, but are in costume and have sort of gotten pulled into some group scenes and stuff like that. So somewhere around 10 to 12.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so we started rehearsals back in late August, which is a pretty good window of time for a play. And right from the beginning, I started trying to incorporate the physicality, and of course working with Caroline as the director and Mike Weiss as the assistant director, to figure out our interpretation of the physicality. But even before auditions, I had started the kind of physical work, kind of going, well, if I get cast, I want to be in good shape. I want to, be able to do it.
You manifested it.
I think there's something to that, right? But no, it's been really enjoyable, and the rest of the ensemble, the cast is really strong. Howard Lang plays Mr. Treves, Dr. Treves. He's kind of the main guy that I interact with the most on stage, and it's his first show at the Playhouse, so it's been really fun to work with him and get to know him. But really, it's a great ensemble of folks who are all working really hard and putting their all into it. So, yeah.
And you're in Tech Week, which that's like a whole thing in Theaterland. So how are you guys taking the rehearsal process and transitioning it to the stage currently? Yeah,
so one of it's fun but also challenging things about doing a Playhouse show is that we have the majority of rehearsals at our rehearsal hall on East 12th because we have shows, almost every weekend. It's very rare that the Playhouse has nothing on stage at any given point. So we have been rehearsing at the rehearsal hall. Just last week, we made the move to the theater on Thursday. So we rehearsed Thursday, Sunday, Monday. We've only had like 3 or 4 rehearsals on stage at this point. But because it is such a team effort and everyone knows the piece that they have to do, and I'm talking not just the cast, but the lighting and scenic designer, Nico Lombardo, Brendan Doherty, our scene shop manager, Ryan Ingram, our costume designer. Everyone is so on top of their game that when we make that move from the rehearsal hall to the theater, it's really impressive how easily pieces come together. So, we started off just kind of fitting everything to the stage and getting used to the difference from going from being in a small rehearsal hall where we're able to look in the mirrors on the other side of the room and get our positioning right, to being in a 500-seat auditorium. But it's coming together. Last night we added costumes for the first time, and of course, there are always some hiccups or some costume changes that are a little quicker than you realized, but we're working through that stuff, and by Friday we're going to be good to go.
Any difficulties, or of course there are always difficulties during Tech Week, but any like snafus that you didn't think were going to be an issue?
So I wouldn't say snafus, but, and this, I don't think this is spoilery stuff, but there are a few times where the audience kind of sees the scene changes that are happening as like another scene is playing out, on another part of the stage. And so there's a portion where my character is in a bathtub, discreet, covered, modest, all that kind of stuff. But then at the end of the scene, while another scene starts, a couple of the crew members come out and the tub rolls off stage, and then I get out of the tub off stage and into a bed, and then the bed rolls on stage. And it's not that it's gone wrong, but doing it for the first time, it's been a little bumpy a few times. And I said I felt like I was on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride the other night, because I'm coming back out in the bed with my eyes closed, and I'm just feeling like, where are we on stage? Are we about to go into the pit? Like, you know, it's just that, you know, getting used to stuff. But it's coming together really well.
I'm excited to see it.
I'm excited
I've
for
never
people to see
seen
it.
this show on stage.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting to see live.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those shows where I think there are a fair number of people who maybe have seen the movie but have never seen the stage version, or, you know, like me, who were aware of it but had never actually read or seen it. So, yeah, I'm really excited for people to see it. I did, you know, I've had people ask, you know, it's October, it's Halloween, is it a spooky show? And, you know, it's really not. Like, I think there are, you know, the fact that he was a sideshow performer, certainly they kind of, you know, play that up a little bit at the beginning of the show. But the story is really about the fact that he's just a guy. He's human. And I hope that audiences feel that connection to the character, you know, because that's, to me, that's the whole story.
Yeah, I was literally just about to ask you, how are you kind of applying the show to your everyday life?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because as you know, when you're working on a show, you kind of never stop thinking about it, right? It's always there in some way. And so, you know, when you talk about ideas like acceptance, or, you know, treating people like the other, or, you know, obviously, I think a lot of that resonates in this current political climate in our country right now, kind of regardless of where anyone might be ideologically. I mean, you report the news every day. Like, that is such a piece of what everyone is talking about, right? And so I think we all would benefit from finding common ground with each other, as hard as that may be when we feel so divided and so strongly about issues. And not to say people shouldn't feel strongly about the things they feel strongly about, but, you know, I think having healthy dialogue is only possible if we can recognize the humanity in each other and acknowledge that we may be different, we may have different points of view, but we're all the same in some way, and let's try to find that common ground. So not to make it too political, but, you know, it's been said many times that all theater is inherently political in some way. So. That's been what I've been carrying with me for sure. Yeah.
But at the same time, how do you separate yourself from the character during every day? Because, I mean, like you said, like, when you're, I mean, kind of less in the rehearsal process, but, like, when you're in show week, that is all you're thinking about. That is all you're, like, sometimes I'm out at the store and I'll be like, this is what my character would do, not what I would do.
Right. Or I'm running lines in my car and realizing, oh, this probably looks crazy to the people next to me because I'm running them out loud.
Yeah.
So, how do I separate? That's a really great question. Honestly, like I said, I'm taking yoga because of the show, and I have not taken yoga in years. I used to do it in college, but kind of got away from it. If you've taken yoga, it is all about trying to kind of detach and, you know,
mind, body,
calm the mind. And so that's been a big help. For me, running has always been kind of a therapy thing. I know I have a lot of friends who like to run like early in the morning, first thing. That's not me. For me, it's more of an end of the day, you know, kind of quiet the mind sort of thing. So that helps. But also, I was going to say too, napping.
Yes.
Napping when I can, although that's rare. But just, you know, life is busy, and so I kind of just can't think about it all the time. I have to focus on the other things I need to focus on. So, but it's hard, as you said, it is hard. You're always kind of, it's there playing in your mind, especially as you get closer and closer to opening.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you found some ways to
I'm trying.
And meditate, because like I said, when I'm in it, I am in it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I gave you the answer I should give you, but the truth is, it's always on my mind.
Yeah, well, okay, so I want to turn it to like a little personal note with like you and the Playhouse. Like you said that you did your first show in college. How has your time there really helped you develop as a person? Either, I mean, like as a person, educationally, morally, any way, how has the Playhouse really helped you?
Yeah, well, I would say for me, I didn't grow up in Erie, so my theater experience actually started earlier than that. When I was about 12 years old, I grew up in Greensburg, outside of Pittsburgh. And so I did my first show at Greensburg Civic Theater when I was 12 years old. And so then my theater career continued at Gannon and then as a volunteer at the Playhouse. But I think doing theater in general, especially at such a young age, gave me a lot of self-esteem. I am an introvert, and people tend to be surprised when I say that.
You would never guess this entire time, actually.
I mean, well, and it helps that, I know you, and so we're just talking,
true.
and but at the end of the day, like I need to kind of recharge, and reset, and so, but doing theater kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone. I was that shy kid who would like hide behind my parents when we were, out in public or whatever. And I wasn't, the athletic kid. I wasn't super musical. So for me, it was finding something that I was passionate about and also that I was, kind of good at and could build some skills at as well. So, and then I think, I talk to a lot of people in my job at the Playhouse who are maybe had similar experiences where they did theater as kids or in high school they did their musical, but now they went on to whatever careers and adult lives, and they talk about it's something that I've always wanted to do. Can I get involved? And so I see so many people who they're not trained actors. They maybe haven't done theater in 15, 20, 30 years. But they come in and they audition and they get, maybe they start off doing ensemble, or maybe they end up in a larger role, or maybe they come in and do crew. And they start to build connections with other people. And to me, that is the biggest thing about community theater. These are not paid professionals. These are folks who are doing theater because they love doing theater. And so what they're really doing is building community, making connections with people who have those shared passions. And again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, they don't necessarily come from the same walks of life. They don't necessarily have the same political views or whatever, or social status or anything like that. But they find common ground doing theater. And that is such, in my job, it's such a rewarding thing to watch. But I also know, as someone who participates in theater, how valuable that is for those individuals as they are making those connections.
Yeah, I kind of always describe the Playhouse as that's my home.
Yeah.
Doing theater since I was 8 years old. Of course, I did it all through high school, all through middle school, and then when I left for college to major in musical theater, completely different scene.
Yeah.
And I think there was a period of time where I honestly didn't even want to do theater. And I was just so disconnected because, I mean, honestly, if you go out to the bigger parts of the industry, it's cutthroat.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's no longer fun.
Yeah.
It is a job. And I mean, that happens with any job.
Even certain college programs, and understandably so, because they're prepping you for life after college when you go into that cutthroat industry. And so, I've heard that from other people who've had similar experiences, whether it's just the college piece of it or that they, went to New York or LA or Chicago and tried to do the starving artist thing and then came home to Erie and we're kind of I don't know if I want to get back into that.
Yeah.
But then hopefully, those who have tend to say, oh yeah, this is what it's like to do community theater. It's not that same cutthroat. I mean, is it competitive at times? Of course,
Sure.
Just like any, there's one person who gets to play a particular role in a show, and so there's inherently some amount of competition baked in. But I think what's great about the Playhouse, and I think this has been your experience too, is that even if you don't get that part in that show, you're still welcomed in, right? And the person who gets that part hopefully is not going around going, oh, I got the part and you didn't. That is such a rare thing because it is such a welcoming community. And I'm so glad when people refer to it as home. And, in the 2.5 years that I've been in this role, to hear that from so many people who feel like they're coming home again and doing the thing they love.
The last show, beautiful. Was it you or someone else messaged me?
I think there were a handful of us saying, Jade, come on, get over here.
When you guys messaged me, I was like, I don't know. Like, I kind of stepped back from theater
Yeah.
after I graduated because
Yeah.
I did the whole like professional like summer stock and all the
Yeah.
things and like being in New York, and I was like, I think I'm gonna step back a little bit. And then I also was like, I don't think I have time.
Yeah.
First of all.
Yeah.
But then you kept asking and asking, and I was like, okay, maybe just maybe I can do it, and I'm so glad that I did because
Yeah.
I think it like the theater love in me just came back alive.
Well, and I think
lost it.
that's a great example too. I mean, it wasn't, no offense, it wasn't the lead role, but it was such an important part and a
Yeah.
great experience that, even if you're not in the lead role, that you
Exactly.
feel like such a part of an ensemble that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we
And
were
then,
so glad to have
like
you.
being back on that stage, it was
Yeah.
like
That's
reminded me of my childhood. And
That's how I felt. I mean,
Yeah.
I had actually moved away from Erie for a couple of years, but prior to that, as you know, I was artistic director at Drama Shop. And so for about a decade, I really was too busy to do anything at the
Yeah.
Playhouse. So it's really been kind of a coming back to the Playhouse for me too. And you're right, when you get on that stage for the first time, there's just that feeling of like, yeah, I'm back. Yeah.
something about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's see. What other questions do I have for you? We talked about the new season. Let's talk a little bit about community engagement. You kind of touched a little bit about it, but there are so many different opportunities other than just being on stage at
Yeah,
the Playhouse.
absolutely.
And so many different opportunities to learn as well.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, for our youth theater students, we have classes and workshops and all that kind of stuff. But then for folks of any age, there are really so many different ways that you can get involved with the Playhouse. And again, the most obvious is to show up and audition, and our auditions are open to anybody. We don't precast roles. You don't have to have prior experience. So whether you've studied theater or whether sometimes we see youth theater parents who have watched their, sons or daughters do shows, and then they go, you know what? It might be something I want to
Yeah.
try. And so just showing up and auditioning and that's a great way to get involved. But of course, we need people behind the scenes as well. We need people to help on stage crew. Another great way is front of house, helping to usher, helping to sell concessions, all that good stuff too. So, I'll put in the plug that folks can always go to our website and fill out the volunteer form and tell us what things you're interested in.
EriePlayhouse.org.
That's right. You're really plugging it. I was just that's
Don't
great.
worry.
Well, and what's really nice there too is you can put on that form, I'm interested in scenic painting, or I'm interested in costuming or whatever. And then we, forward those email responses to each of our staff members in those areas. And, they're not necessarily reaching out every day to say, I need 100 people to come in and work on costumes. But if Ryan gets a form that says, hey, I'm interested in costuming, and I helped with my child's, costumes for their school shows for 20 years, and now I'm retired, it's like, okay, great, come on over. So we are always happy to get more people involved in any aspect that we can, for sure.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Oh, did you have something else?
Well, no, I was just going to mention too, as far as just kind of getting out there to the community and getting more people into the Playhouse. Last year we launched something called Playhouse for All, which was it was a pilot program funded through the Erie Community Foundation, where folks who have access or EBT cards qualify to get $5 tickets for any of our productions. We have typically 50 available per production, and sometimes we're able to increase that number as well. And I'm really excited because for our 2026 season, we actually worked with Wabtec, and they're going to sponsor that program going forward. So for 2026, Playhouse for All will continue, and again, hopefully that broadens the number of people who have access to see what we're doing at the Playhouse and to develop that love of theater.
Again, it's such an amazing, fantastic program because it's like, you can't get this quality of theater for that amount.
Oh my
and
gosh,
that just breaks so many barriers for people in the community who aren't able to go to big performances and see this. So,
and I would love to have all of our tickets be $5, but obviously there are financial realities to producing what we produce. So it's great that we're able to have folks who can, pay the regular ticket price, and also, folks who qualify, and thanks to sponsors like Wabtec, are able to see those shows at a discount price as well. So yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And then one last question.
Sure.
This has literally nothing to do with the Playhouse.
Oh boy. Okay.
But I ask this of all of my guests. Why is Erie the best city ever? This can be a memory, a story, a vibe, an experience, anything.
Yeah.
Why is just Erie the best city ever?
That's a great question, and as someone who is a transplant to Erie, that's a question that I've had to answer before, because I have relatives who, from the Pittsburgh area who just perceive Erie as snowy. And I mean, first of all, as we were talking about before we started recording, it is beautiful out and it's October, so that's amazing. But no, I think what's great about Erie is that we have so many things that you would not expect to have in a city this size.
Yeah.
We really do have the big city amenities and a small town feel. And you can't beat that. We have the Playhouse, we have the Philharmonic, we have the Art Museum, we have the Otters, we have the Seawolves, we have all of these wonderful big city attractions, but it feels like a quaint, I have a 5-minute commute to work.
Yeah.
Like, you can't beat that. And I think too, if you're really hungry for true big city things, we've got 3 really big cities in about a 2.5 hour drive from Erie. Yeah. So I just think it's a great place to live, to work, to raise a family. Yeah. I am a convert to Erie for life. So. Yeah.
I mean, I came back here. So.
I know. I moved away for all of a year and came back. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Zach.
Thank you
for being my 3rd guest.
Happy to be here.
Best Day Ever podcast. If you guys would like any more information about the Playhouse, either volunteering, auditioning, or just getting more information about the shows, you can go to their website, which is erieplayhouse.org.
That's right.
But other than that, we hope that you guys have the best day ever. Bye.